Good morning, everyone, on this wonderful frosty morning, at least here in central New Mexico. Snow on our mountain, but I have plenty of coffee, so we're good to go. Oh my goodness, I've got a lot to cover. And I want to thank everybody so much for sending me all of this information and all the links. And I will put the link down to these articles. You can use Google Translate, or there are several other programs for free that you can use to translate them. But there's news coming out of Japan this morning. And I also want to thank Tanaka Attorney on Twitter, who is an ex-JW, who is working in Japan. And he has made several posts this morning on Twitter, and I will put those down below also. He has an article listed here from the GG Press News, and I translated it. And the date on this article is November 20th, 2023. 90% of children of Jehovah's Witness followers are whipped, from a survey they took. I'm going to read this. About 90% of children of followers of Jehovah's Witness religious organization have been whipped by their parents, a survey has found. The survey, conducted by a group of lawyers who support victims of the cult, also found that some 80% of children of Jehovah's Witness followers had carried a card indicating the holder's intention to refuse blood transfusions. I did. The survey was conducted online in May and June this year and received responses from 581 children of Jehovah's Witness followers in 46 of Japan's prefectures, excluding Wakayama. The group analyzed the responses of 560 of the respondents who said they became involved in the cult's activities before the age of 18. And many of us are victims of physical abuse by our JW parents. And I've talked about this before. You know, myself, I am a victim of physical abuse. At some point, my wrist was broken, and I was never taken to get medical treatment or the ER. I didn't even know I had broken it until 2007, when I had a mishap here at the house and fell off a ladder, and I had to go into the emergency room, and they said, "How old were you as a child when your wrist was broken?" They could tell that it had been done when I was a child because the bones hadn't been fully formed yet. And they said it healed improperly. And they also said at some point you're going to have problems. You may even require surgery. Well, that's why I have problems with my wrist now. But I was beaten, I was slapped, I was backhanded. My dad would rip off his 2-inch leather belt and would beat on us kids wherever he could hit us. Our legs, our backs, our faces. I know what it feels like to have a huge leather strap across the face. I know what that feels like. So I don't doubt this for a minute. So I'm going to put the link down below to this article. And even I've been covering the Perez case, and I'm going to be doing a video after the holiday, after Thanksgiving, because there has been some new things that have come up with that, and it's not over, it's not a done deal. There is still a hearing on December 7th, and so I will be updating on that. But I haven't mentioned any details in that case because they're so horrific. So horrific. And like I mentioned before, covering this Perez case, that the parents in the court never denied the abuse. Watchtower never denied the abuse. They only wanted to go with the little nitpicking of like, oh, well, the plaintiff, failed to file this by the certain date, and plaintiff did this and plaintiff did that. They never denied the accusations. But I'm going to cover some of the details because in the Perez, Abel Perez, one of his, when he filed this, well, it was the first amended complaint. And I've got it right here. And these are public records. You can go to the Fresno County and just do a smart search and just put in case number 23CECG00025. Like I said, I'm going to be covering more details about this after the holidays. But here on page 4, facts common to all claims of physical abuse. And when you scroll down to the bottom, to line 22, like I said, I haven't gone into details because some of this abuse is so horrific. What the mom did to the girls, she actually gave them exams to make sure they were still virgins. It's like, oh my God, what mother does that? Line 22. Roberto and Nino unjustifiably violently assaulted their children with sticks, belt, wire hangers, Mexican leather, cattail horsewhip, garden hose, and extension cords. Attached hereto as Exhibit 2 and incorporated herein by this reference is a true and correct photograph of a Mexican leather cattail horsewhip. Now look at this photo. This is what they used to beat their kids with. I can't imagine, that getting across the face. And it wasn't just the thin leather straps. It had to be the handle part. Because when parents are beating kids, they don't care what part is hitting the kids. Roberto and Nino regularly dragged plaintiff and his siblings across the floor by their hair or ears. Yeah, my hair, my clothes, anything my dad could get a hold of. Line 25, Roberto and Nino would force Raymond and Corrine to kneel on gravel under a hot sun for hours at a time. As a result, Corrine's knees went on to form large scars. Attached hereto as Exhibit 4 and incorporated herein by this reference is a true and correct photograph of Corrine's knees. So they have photographs, and all these documents have photographs of what these kids went through. Fat lips, the knees, and horrific details. Like I said, that's why I haven't mentioned any of these details. Not only does it bring back bad memories for me, but it's very triggering to all of those that suffered this abuse. And we did a video a while back. There was a talk back in 1953, if I remember correctly, of how to raise children for the New World Order society that Watchtower gave.
Though you give proper instruction and set the proper example, children just refuse to obey. That brings us to the subject of discipline and forces the facing of that hotly controversial question, to spank or not to spank. Many child psychologists put a hands-off sign on children, as did one who said, "Every time you spank your child, you show that you're hating your child." Jehovah says, "He who spares the rod hates his son, but he who loves him is diligent to discipline him." A spanking may be a lifesaver to a child, for Jehovah says, "Do not withhold discipline from a child. If you beat him with a rod, he will not die. If you beat him with the rod, you will save his life from Sheol." Again, blows that wound cleanse away evil. Strokes make clean the innermost parts. It is Jehovah who can peer into the innermost parts of men and children. And at one time, typical of our day, he did this and saw, "The inclination of the heart of man is bad from his youth up." The remedy? Folly is bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod of discipline drives it far from him. With some children, occasions arise when words fall short, and parents may have to become men and women of action, applying the rod to preserve the child from spoiling. But regarding the use of the rod, the literal rod, recently, in the face of mounting juvenile delinquency, many child psychologists are doing an about-face on spanking, many swinging back to the rod idea. Many have been forced to admit that the lessons learned at mother's knee do not make as lasting an impression as those learned while stretched across daddy's. A hairbrush may speak louder than words. A hairbrush has been found versatile, having use from top to bottom. the front for unruly hair, the back for unruly conduct.
And along those lines, I have a bond volume here, and I want to share something. And I want to thank Larchwood on Twitter for posting this. This is the 1961 Watchtower bond volume. And we're going to go to June 15th to an article, Manifesting Christian Manners. You want to see why all of us parents were taught how to be abusive to our kids and how to beat them down into submission? It's horrible. It's horrible. Over on page 364, they have a picture of a mom hushing her kid. My daughter, she has PTSD just from us telling her to be quiet. You know, and there was a time that we did take her outside and spank her. But that's the thing, you had to beat your kids into submission. So over on page 365, paragraph 22. And you young people, what about your Christian manners? Do they show that you know your place? And that you appreciate that you come to the congregation meeting place to listen and to learn? There was a Caleb and Sophia cartoon about this. It was very disturbing. I sent that to a couple of psychologists, and they were horrified. I'll put the link down below if Watchtower still has that up, because it shows Caleb and Sophia not paying attention at meetings. They're little kids. They don't understand what is being said and going on. All they know is they're being told to sit still and be quiet. Sit down and shut up. That's horrible. It's horrible. They don't understand. My daughter, she told me, she says, I didn't understand what was going on. I would just sit there and look at pictures. But there was times she just couldn't sit still. They're little kids. Of course they can't sit still. Going on. Bad manners show a lack of respect for Jehovah God, for His Word, for His congregation, and for your elders, including your parents. This isn't a lack of respect or bad manners. They're just little kids. They don't know what's going on. They don't know why they have to sit there and be quiet. The Caleb and Sophia cartoon that I mentioned just a couple of seconds ago. It shows when the parents get home and they're talking to their kids after the meeting, they're talking about Noah and his family. It shows Noah playing video games. And then the flood comes and the ark falls apart. And then you see glug, 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 and the controller floating up and says game over. You know what that does to kids? The same thing this article did to all of us. It shows that if you do not obey, you're not going to make it through Armageddon. Do you know what kind of trauma that does to a kid? I know. I lived it. Going on. Some of you have the bad habit of repeatedly running out to the restrooms during meetings. It's not a bad habit. We just didn't like your boring ass meetings. You, no doubt, acquired this habit from the juvenile delinquents with whom you are obliged to rub elbows in the public schools and who use it as a means to give expression to their frustration and rebellion. Oh my God! Do you see why we use these older magazines? Because it shows why all of us were abused as kids. Beware of imitating them. You know they will perish at Armageddon, while you hope to survive it and live through it into the new world, do you not? See? Beat your kids into submission. Beat the devil out of them. That's what my dad always told me. Had to beat the devil out of me. But, enough of that. Good news. More good news coming out of Japan. There is a video. I will put the link down below. This is the question and answer going on part about the Jehovah's Witnesses. And if you click on the little CC at the bottom of the video, click on that, and then click on subtitles, and then click on auto generated, and then another window will open, and then just scroll to the language you want to read the subtitles in. But thank you very much, Mr. Tanaka, for giving us these this information in these articles, and several others of you have sent links to these articles as well. The Asahi Simban, ex-Jehovah Witness denied surgery after parents refused. For 8 years until he turned 18, a man raised as a third-generation Jehovah Witness suffered because he couldn't have heart surgery due to his parents' refusal to allow a blood transfusion. And then Watchtower's PID clown goes and says to the media, "Oh, well, a blood transfusion is up to a Jehovah Witness."
Are conventionally, rather unconventional, like not accepting blood transfusions or not celebrating birthdays. This is something that has kind of created a stereotype around Jehovah's Witnesses. Just wanted a bit more clarity on these kinds of practices, and how does one go about living like a Jehovah's Witness in a modern society?
Well, yes, I mean, everything is personal decision. While we have our publications which explains the Bible principles, but each individual has to decide whether he wants to follow that or not. So it's personal responsibility. Each one carries his own load, just the Bible says. So yeah, that is what we believe and what we practice. In fact, Jehovah's Witnesses give high regard to life, very high regard to life. We have instructions that even if you're traveling by a scooter, the pillion rider should also wear a helmet. Is because not to be, to be caught, or just to save face with the law enforcement agencies, but life is precious. So the principle is life is precious, and that is why we do things. So we have a high regard for life, whether, riding a scooter, riding a car, or even in case of blood transfusion. Jehovah's Witnesses give high regard to life, but it's a personal decision. And we are also happy that the medical community has come up with very much, transfusion alternatives.
It's up to their own personal decision? No. Your little blood booklet from 1961 said it was God's law. See what liars they are? At age 10, he was diagnosed with atrial septal defect, a condition characterized by a hole in the heart, for which a doctor recommended surgery. During physical education classes at school, he was the only one unable to run among all the students. "I want to have the surgery if it will make me feel better," he thought at the time. The man, now 20, cooperated in a lawyer's survey documenting abuse among the religious group. So he was part of that survey that those lawyers did in Japan. He said when a doctor mentioned that he might need a blood transfusion in the event of emergency during the surgery, his parents' expressions changed. The Jehovah Witness faith teaches that God prohibits practices such as transfusion of whole blood as a medical treatment. See, that proves Watchtower's public information clown lied. We all know, we have it in black and white. These shelves are full of that kind of stuff. That's why we keep all of this, to show Watchtower is now lying. They're lying to the world, they're lying to the public, they lie at the doors, they lie at their carts to the public. His parents firmly said, "We will not sign the consent form for blood transfusion." During medical examinations, a follower called a medical institution liaison member, the HLC, also attended, explaining to the doctor the reasons for refusing blood transfusions. The man said his parents instructed him to state his refusal to have a transfusion. I remember telling my own daughter, if you're ever in the emergency room and they want to give you blood, try to rip out, the blood IV that they're giving you. And tell them that you consider it the same, view it the same as rape upon your body. Watchtower taught us that. When he showed reluctance to adhere to the practice in a show of defiance, his parents whipped him at home for lacking faith. Oh my God, see? They whipped him because he wanted surgery to save his life. This is a cult. Jehovah's Witnesses are a cult. They have destroyed families. They have destroyed lives. That's why we keep doing these YouTube videos. We don't want to see anyone else die or have to suffer the abuse. His surgery was successful and ultimately no transfusion was needed. His health improved rapidly after the surgery. Good for him. Good for him. He cannot forgive his parents, but he felt even more anger toward the Jehovah Witness faith, he says. I don't blame him. I have a lot of anger myself towards my parents of what they forced me to do. Going to meetings and out in service when I'm sick. And I feel bad, and I have had to apologize several times to our daughter for doing the same thing to her. Even though I never beat her or whipped her to make her do these things. I still feel bad for that. But see, Watchtower indoctrinates parents that you have to beat the devil out of them because you want them to survive Armageddon. You wouldn't want God, Jehovah, to kill them because they're disobedient. Even now, you leave the organization. My mother calls me a tool of Satan that has destroyed our family. I didn't destroy our family. Watchtower did. But see, they have to blame the ones that leave because we're tools of Satan now. See how messed up it is? Very messed up. Now I'm going to put the link down, like I said, to several of these articles. And I want to thank the person that sent me this email. It says, "Hi Mike and Kim. I'm not going to read some of this because it may give away who the person is. My pops told me that at tonight's midweek meeting, the chairman announced that during the week of December 4th, there's going to be a local needs announcement that's going to affect everybody and also about the meetings. No idea what it is or if it's being hyped up for the rank and file. Thought you'd like to know." So I have sent some emails to our PIMO friends and see if they know what is going on with this. And as soon as we know, we will let everybody know. But it's interesting the way it's worded. Local needs announcement. That's going to affect everybody. So we'll see. Sometimes they do hype these things up. I remember back years ago when we were in the Cottonwood congregation in Arizona, and everybody needs to be at the Sunday meeting because we have a big announcement. Everybody, every submarine witness, it was like a memorial, had 200 people there that day. You know what the announcement was? They're no longer going to be charging for their literature. So, my wish and hope, big announcement, they're going out of business. But I know that isn't going to happen. And they will never apologize for the abuse and damage they have done, so it's not going to be anything like that, because that's what narcissists do. They don't apologize for the abuse they have done. So, it's not going to be anything like that. So I want to thank all of you for watching very much, and welcome to all our new subscribers, and thanks to all of our viewers that have been here for a while. And know we love you very much. So you all have a wonderful weekend. Bye.